Hey friends, Mario Cavallo here. I've just gone live. Welcome to everyone who's going to see this later because I do not advertise in advance. When I decide to go live, this is because I want to make a video. And so there's not going to be any audience here. Welcome to all of you who come to watch it later on my YouTube channel, and you'll see the link in my Twitter feed. I am in downtown Shenyang walking along, and it's great to get online. Got a lot of stuff happening in the current news cycle, isn't there? That's all related to China. China. China who? China what? China the peacemaker. Whoa! Check out my latest Substack. I just put the post up. Is China really committed to peace as the world's peacemaker? Huh. As the world's next superpower, which it is, right? And let me be crystal clear about that. China's involvement and economic and relationship ties and impact and connections and integration into the entire global world and global economy is now far beyond what is the United States. And it's not reversible. I mean, little parts of it can be reversed, but only in evil ways. The only way the only way the United States can stop China's ascension is they can't compete except in a couple of areas. So they can only engage in things like illegal sanctions, targeting companies, making up fake problems that don't really exist, like a Uyghur forced labor problem. Oh, so now we have a problem that doesn't really exist. And now, because of that problem, we need a new forced labor law to prove innocence, to have to prove your innocence that you're not using forced labor. Well, nobody's using forced labor in Xinjiang. We already know that. So again, all of this is just political nonsense and propaganda. This is what they do, and this is how they do it. And it's the only way they could stop China. They can't stop Huawei. Oh, yes, they can. They just blanket threaten and sanction because they couldn't, by competition, in reality, they couldn't stop Huawei. They literally told the UK, you better drop Huawei. I mean, and that's the only way that the United States can deal with this problem of China's ascension, which is a threat. China is a threat. Absolutely it is. China's ascension is a threat to the US's previous position as the hegemonic leader of the world. And I won't say of the free world, because that's just not true. It's free for the rich people, but it's not free for the, oh, what is it? 500,000 each. Dead, nice, innocent family people, men, women, and children in Iraq, Libya, Syria, Serbia. Now, to every dead Ukrainian, even the middle, I was going to say the middle of America, even Latin America, Nicaragua, Honduras, Panama, El Salvador. Someone reminded me the other day of the genocidal disaster in Indonesia, where over 1 million farmers were dangerous leftists. They were farmers, and they were genocided with the full support of the United States. Yahoo! Free world, United States, the leader of the free world. That's the free world. If that's the free world you want to be the leader of, we don't want any part of it. And I'm not even anti-American. I'm not anti-American. I'm anti everything I just said. America, the ideals of America are fabulous. No one should be anti-American. I'm anti what it's become, but I'm not anti-American. My family immigrated from Italy to the United States, America. At the time, it's getting a little warm here, so I'm gonna pull off the hat. My hair probably looks like hell. Who cares? You don't need to concern yourself with how handsome I might be or not be. My Italian family and all the other Italians left Italy because it was a mess. Mussolini, this and that. But they believed in the American dream, which was hard work. They arrived in the United States under difficult circumstances, but they did have the freedom to work their way up. Good for them. Well, that's just not America today, and we all know that. It's sad. Well, what I really want to talk to you about today is the number one point about all this, which is the false delusion of precious free speech that they keep using. They keep saying it's not in China. Yes, it is. People criticize the government constantly, and they're invited to do that. What? Yeah, Luyan.com, Liuyan.com.cn. That's the website where the Chinese government invites you to say what you want about what the government needs to fix. Really? So the government that suppresses you, the authoritarian, totalitarian monster government, has a website where they want you to tell them what your complaints are. Okay, nasty government they are, those Chinese crazy bastards, right? It's the delusion of free speech juxtaposed against civility and decency in society. I have a funny feeling the sound is smooth right now because of the wind. I'm really unhappy about that. The wind just kicked up here, and I'll bet you the wind is really, we should say shit. Hang on, let me see if I can deal with this. Yes, I'm crossing the street. Yes, I'm doing right. So no, I'm not going to get the quiet car. Thanks for your concern. Well, you're going to go or not go? Thank you, thank you. All right, I made it. Folks, I'm sorry to tell you how much you've been sold a bill of goods on the delusion of precious free speech. What good is your precious free speech if you can't live in a decent and civil society? Okay. Free speech isn't free speech. There's no such thing as free speech. Everything you say comes with an increasing level of responsibility and consequence in life. There is nothing free. What you say is supposed to have consequences and come with responsibility. And the United States has created a neoliberal free speech narrative. One, to demonize China, that it supposedly doesn't have necessary free speech. Notice I said necessary free speech, and that's not true. China has necessary free speech. Absolutely has it. I just told you that they have it. And I'll give you some more examples as well. But then in the United States, unfortunately, They've weaponized it, turned it into a way to destroy society. If the leaders of the government didn't want an unstable, deteriorating society, couldn't they make rules and laws so that it wasn't an unstable and deteriorating society? And the answer is yes, they can. And how do we know that? Well, because other countries do, including China. China is now the largest, safe, stable, successful, very capable, civil, decent, peaceful society on planet Earth. Overall, it's far more civilized and stable than India, which has its merits, but way too many problems, including horrifying abject poverty for tons of people who can do nothing about it. So India's got lots of problems. China has become, as the largest world of 1.4 billion people, the most amazing, safe, successful, stable, capable, civil, decent, and peaceful country on the planet. So what do you have to counter that? Nothing. So the only things people bring up to counter that are, what about Tibet? Okay. What about the Uyghurs? What about Taiwan? What about Hong Kong? None of those things refute my statement. None of them. Okay. First of all, I'm concerned with the state of a country over the course of the recent history of a country, the current first and second generation. I don't know about you, but I don't care about what a country may or may not have done bad in the past. I'm much more concerned with how the government is running the country right frickin' now, in the future, in the present, and for my 12-year-old son, in the future, and his likely future wife and kids. That's my concern. So when you try to criticize Tibet and you criticize China and you bring up Tibet, I go, huh, what? First of all, that was 70 years ago, or whenever it was. How many exactly? I don't remember the exact date. 90% of Tibetans had no rights, were treated like dogs under rich feudal lords, living under their households with no rights. Okay? It was called feudal slavery. And the Chinese liberated the entire area of Tibet from that system. Thank you, China. Since then, they've poured billions of dollars into improving Tibet. The lives of Tibetans has never been better. When you go to Tibet, all the signs, all the language, everywhere is in Tibetan. Oh, son of a gun. Surprise, surprise. Really? Yeah, really. Same for Xinjiang. When you go to Xinjiang, the signs are in the Uyghur language all over the place. You go to the bookstore, you find Henry Kissinger's book in the Uyghur language, published in the bookstore, along with many others in the Uyghur language. Hoo-hoo. So again, I hope I'm just blowing out some of the ridiculous, stupid political propaganda things that you've been told, which are completely and totally untrue. But I've gotten a little bit off the track, because the thing I want to talk about is civility and decency in society. I put up a tweet earlier, said, so does this sound like you're free? Are you free if you live in a country where you can walk down the street, there's no guns anywhere, including in the hands of the police? There's no guns anywhere. You live in a city where the majority, not majority, I do not by the Judeo-Christian ethic, but by the Confucian principles and ethics. That's the root of the moral ethic base of most of China, though there's now somewhere around 100 million Christians and religious practices are allowed. Again, another thing you've been lied to about. But you have the Confucian ethic, which says, as a person, what you're taught in school, study hard, build up your virtue, be a good person, filial piety, take care of your elder parents, and avoid conflict, avoid trouble. So you're I just described China to you, right? I just described this country to you. That's the country that I live in. That was the impression that I've got of the country when I first arrived 24 years ago in October of 1999 in Chengdu, in Sichuan province. Here I am, 5, 10, 15, 20, almost 25 years later, and the impression that I've gotten that that's this country, how I just described it to you, is this country. And all that's happened meanwhile is that the country has also, it happens to be that during this particular 25, 30-year period, the country also modernized and has become the world's next superpower, and has done so in peace. That's the other subject to talk about today. China wants and is committed to peace and civil, decent society, or the lack of it in the world. So this is the problem with social media, with Facebook, with Twitter, and with the agenda which comes out of the government, with the media, who is the mouthpiece of the media, to create and allow and provoke a divisive society where civility and decency is not valued. Whereas I live in China and civility and decency is highly valued. Okay? Everything I'm saying to you is what I want my son to learn and come to understand as he becomes a young adult. He's heading in toward 12 years old now. This is so important to me, as it should be to any parent for their child, to understand how the world works. And that a child in their home with their loving parents, and I'll defer to the state of affairs in the United States where there's a whole lot of single parents, unfortunately, but still that one single parent, mostly female, some male, can still be wonderfully supportive, loving as a parent toward your child. Then you just be a normal human being and support and love and take care of your child. Okay. Now, ideally, you got two parents and that's happening. And you want your child in their home to feel what? Safe and secure. So then the next thing you want is for your child, when they leave their home, when they leave your home, to also feel what? Safe and secure. Isn't that the most important thing that you want for your child? And what comes after that? That your child would come to understand the world around them, how it works, how it operates, how it feels, all the good and bad of it. Wow. You have no idea, while I'm walking along, cars and scooters are zooming all around me. This is what we want for our children, to prepare them for the future, to understand how the world works, all the good and wonderful part of it, and all the difficult and scary and dangerous part of it. Both. Eyes wide open. Every 6 months, I raise up the depth. Thank you, 谢谢. Every 6 months, I raise up the level of depth in my conversations with my son, as I sense that his brain becomes more, and emotions become more sentient and capable and mature of understanding additional layers of explaining life to him in more complex ways. About every 6 months or so is what I feel I'm noticing with my son. He's ready for more conversation as he's going through these stages of growing up into adulthood. which for a kid, they don't know anything, you know? And he's got parents that are explaining everything to him along the way, but you can't tell them too much. It's too much. It's overwhelming. They can't get it. They don't understand it. So you got to be sensitive. You got to be smart. You got to be wise as a parent. And we do that. And when I was younger, I was growing up with my two brothers, and my mom and dad didn't spend this time explaining so much to us about life. And that's not a criticism of my parents at all. They're wonderful people. My dad was busy working 4 jobs to put food on the table. Yeah. So, you know, it was a different time, as they say. It's not a criticism. But the world we live in today, man, woo, you better explain things to your kid. And one of the things to explain is, what is this idea of, do you live in a country that's peaceful or at war? Is there war around you? Is your city that you're in? Hello? Is the city you're in being bombarded? Bombed? And if it is, by who? Most likely, if you're in a city being bombed on planet Earth, who is the most likely perpetrator bombing it? That's a fucked up statement I'm about to say to you. If you live in a country in the United States, in the world, today, or over the last 30 years, and you live in a country in which the city that you're in got bombed, and millions of people lives are ruined and turned into refugees, if not killed, innocent people, who is the most likely perpetrator of that bombing? The United States! Ah! Damn! That is some seriously painful reality. That is some seriously painful reality. I take no pleasure in saying that. Jesus. And that's the problem. That's where we're at. So, with the United States, you got warring all over the country, all over the world. Currently, Ukraine, and they're prepping up this new ridiculous AUKUS thing. $45 billion worth of nuclear submarines that are going to get delivered over the next 20 years that I guarantee you are never even going to get delivered. Look, you got to wonder what the hell these people are doing, what they're thinking. That China's going to attack Australia, which is like thousands of miles away across a vast ocean. What are they going to do? Send an armada led by Christopher Columbus Wong? Hey, Mr. Wong, lead an armada slowly across the ocean to go attack Australia. Like, why would China do that? These folks, these people in charge of the United States of America and the military industrial complex are frickin' psychotic lunatics playing with lives. Millions of people are already dead. We might all end up dead because of these crazy sons of bitches. So back to civility and decency in society. This is the problem. It's no longer required. Free speech is, I don't know what it is anymore, but it's not free speech is paramount. It's become free speech without responsibility and consequences has become paramount. You see, here in China, life is much more civil and decent. And I'll give you an example of that. If you want to have a social media account here in China, well, again, society keeps you responsible for what you say. You are responsible for the consequences of and what comes out of your mouth. Now, doesn't it sound like your mother and father saying that to you? Watch your mouth, young man. How many times have we heard that from our parents? I hope a lot. Or young woman. So, society extends the parental guidance. Society becomes the place where it's family and parental guidance of households, which are a village, which become a little town, which become a city, which become your society, and the rules are that you should behave yourself. My God, behave yourself. Shocking idea. Behave civilly and decently. And that there are consequences and responsibility to your behavior. No, no, no. So in China, yes. You cannot have an account in China without submitting your ID. Sounds right to me. So they know who you are. Good. Good. So that you can't be anonymous and commit crimes and harass and abuse and harm people and cause danger to people and do it anonymously. Why would any government allow you to do that legally? And then set up social media platforms that allow you to do it and encourage you to do it. Does that sound like a good country to live in? Well, that's where you live, but that's not where I live. Incredible. Let me ask you a question. Are you in any kind of a group, or have you set up any kind of a group? Like here in China, we set up WeChat. We have WeChat. I guess there's Reddit groups in America, in the West. What other kinds of platforms allow you to set up your own private group? Well, Facebook, surely. So I have a WeChat group, and there's lots of WeChat groups. Anybody can set up a WeChat group, and so you're the moderator of the group. And what do you tell everybody in your group? Please refrain from saying nasty, ugly shit about other people and to other people. No insulting or rude comments in my group. Thank you. In other words, everyone is expected to act and communicate with civility and decency. If you get angry, if you're angry at someone in the group and you don't like it, that's a private matter. It doesn't belong in the group. This is groups of 500 people, okay? If an Italian gets invited into the group and you hate fucking Italians, you're not allowed to say that. It's just, I don't care if you hate Italians. That's your problem, okay? Keep quiet. You're not allowed to say that in the group. And if you do say it, what are you doing letting some freaking Italian in the group? I hate Italians. Oh, really? Well, shut your mouth. You're going to get removed from the group. This is nothing complicated about what I'm describing, folks. Civility and decency is required. I'm the moderator. It's my group. Everybody has, lots of people have groups, and the groups are required to have civility and decency. This is a tiny little microcosm of society. Then these groups become many groups. That becomes known as a community. A community becomes known as a town and a village and a city and a state or a province and a country. And there's your civil society. And everybody has to do their part to behave. And the government's responsibility is to ensure civility and decency so that the vast majority of people, as many as possible, everyone can feel that grandma and child and mother and son and daughter can feel safe, that they are living in a safe and stable and decent and civil society. End of discussion. There's nothing else to say about this. The United States society, the government and social media has abandoned this. Wow, these are so beautiful. I'm gonna, oh, I can't turn the camera around. There was a lady with her cart full of beautiful flowers. I wanted to show it to you, but then I realized that while I'm live, I can't reverse the camera. So in social media in the West, this civility and decency is not a priority. It's not required. And therefore, it destroys the experience of lots of people in social media. You're a decent person, but monsters, and it's not just social media, it's the whole society. People with out of control, abusive, harassing, damaging, even dangerous free speech. These people are putting your lives on the street in danger. So the lives of good people, the rights of good people are being trounced and trampled upon by lunatic, psychotic, maniac people ruining your life because they have the right to do so. Huh? You see what I mean? So that's the state of the neoliberal affair. And this has nothing to do with wokeness, by the way. Wokeness is a separate subject. That's ultra, tolerance of trans and other specific issues. That's wokeness. What I'm discussing here is really just the neoliberal agenda, the progressive, the deconstruction of society's morals and values, the stripping away of it, that says I can say anything I want, and if it bothers those 50 people over there and ruins their lives, that's not my problem, because I'm entitled to my free speech, even though I just ruined those other 50 nice people's lives. Yeah, this is what's going on. China doesn't allow any of this nonsense. Thankfully, China doesn't allow any of this nonsense. Which leads me now, for now, to the last subject, which is, in the meanwhile, the West, led by the United States, US-led NATO, and all of its warmongering, provocation, and allowing, provoking, encouraging, and creating the circumstances of war intentionally to sell more weapons, to make a profit. And the Ukrainian families are dead and dying for these companies to make profits. They're not important in the equation of whether or not we should start war. And this is the leader of the free world. This is the country that touts freedom, democracy, God on its currency, blah, blah, blah. Are you kidding me? And who is the monster? Who is the monster that is committed to and creating only and rising only in peace for almost half a century? China. The last time China attacked, dropped a bomb on any other country was 1979, the Sino-Vietnamese War. Since then, there have been some ongoing border skirmishes. There were border skirmishes, local border skirmishes for a few more years after China unilaterally ceased fire on, I believe, March 16th, 1 month later. So China started and ended a war in 1 month. Compare that to the occupation of Syria, Libya, Afghanistan, Iran, Iraq. I mean, just who's the warmongering killer? China! Who's the threat we need nuclear submarines against? China! Jesus. Oh, man. I gotta laugh because it's so disgusting, isn't it? Since then, China's military has been also involved in a few border skirmishes. Occasionally, a couple of guys exchange fire. I think in one border skirmish with India, was it up to 20 people, 20 that got killed? I don't know. It's like in comparison to 500,000 people. And how many in Ukraine are dead now? Oh, by the way, I'm not blaming Putin. He's willing to send troops into a territory and kill people. He's made that decision as well. So 2 wrongs don't make a right. Skipping the reasons why, the United States went into Ukraine in 2014, took over the government. Basically, it's like an extension of the United States. Ukraine is United States territory. Did you know that most private companies, and I forget which companies, it's Monsanto and a couple of others, have bought up Ukraine? So, American companies own Ukraine. There's like a dozen biolabs in Ukraine. They're just researching viruses for the safety of mankind, but they're run by the military. They're run by the military. Oh, there just happens to be a dozen biolabs in the country that we want to take over. Putin doesn't like it, the country we did take over in 2014. right on the border of Russia. And Putin he said, please don't do that. By the way, if you don't believe me on any of this, don't. I'm nobody. Please, I'm nobody. Believe Matt Taibbi. Believe Seymour Hersh. Believe Oliver Stone. Watch his documentary on Ukraine. Please, I'm no one. I'm just a guy trying to enjoy a wonderful life. I am here in China. And I can just see the hypocrisy of this whole nightmare of this, the United States is the goody two shoes fairy, when in fact they're the ones causing all the problems. And now here we have China, the peacemaker, for now almost half a century, 6 more years, and it'll be a half a century that China didn't start a war. And they're not going to start a war. When's the last time China dropped a bomb on anybody? They haven't. So other than border skirmishes, which are a relatively tiny event, you have absolutely nothing to complain about. Oh, wait. There is China's military buildup in the South China Sea. Yes, there is China's military buildup in the South China Sea. China's claim to that is crystal clear as far as they're concerned. You're free to disagree with that. I see China building up its military. Again, who have they dropped a bomb on? Tell me, who has China dropped a bomb on? Since 1979, 44 years ago, almost a half a century, who has China dropped a bomb on? The Philippines? No. Japan? No. Malaysia? Singapore? Thailand? Just who has China dropped the bomb on? Who is China drone bomb attacking? Who has died in any other country from China attacking them with big bombs out of fighter jets and bomber planes? Nobody. Nobody. And I got to listen to this crap from all of you and watch this crap on the news. We have to protect the United States, the UK, and Australia need to gather our forces to fight and protect ourselves against China, those crazy bastards. I really hope a lot of people watch this. I really do. Because I'm just trying to get the message out of how much nonsense all this is. China has brokered a recent, call it a peace deal, between Saudi Arabia and Iran. China is on its way to speak with Zelensky and to speak with Putin to try and get to peace. And every step of the way, the United States of America blocks it. They had a deal made months ago, and who put the kibosh on it? The United States. They don't want peace. Can you imagine? This is the United States of America, and they want death and war. Could you possibly understand that? It's just incredible. Now, you say, well, they are in control. They are the leader of the world, and they still are. They still have the power and the might, but it's all through threat. But look at China. China's quietly amassed the economic power and refuses to engage in war-rooted and war-supported power. So China is not bullied or threatened any other country with war and massacre and death. They're certainly not out there assassinating anybody. You say you want to complain they're engaged in economic warfare? Well, I don't know. I call that competition. Okay? Let's talk about how China screwed over the United States of America. That's a favorite topic amongst many politicians. How China screwed over all the workers of the United States of America and destroyed its manufacturing base, those bastards. China did that. No! Hello! No! China did not do that. I hope you know what I'm going to say next. Your own companies did that. Your own government administration and companies made those deals to send the manufacturing overseas to China and other countries as well, because they wanted more goddamn profits for their shareholders. And the workers' wages are the same for like 30 years. By the way, yes, wages have finally gone up by like what, 10, 15% after all these 30 years with the situation with inflation. But I hope you get the point of exactly what I'm saying. China did not ruin your manufacturing base. The American manufacturing corporations made those decisions. Bitch and piss about the CEO, not of the American company, not Xi Jinping. Do you understand what I'm saying? This is so obvious and so simple. And now we're back to peace. China just wants to rise in peace, go make deals in peace. And that's what China is doing, and that's what China has been doing. And that's why the United States and Australia, who survived the recessions, the nasty recessions of the last few years, because of China as its major trading partner, and the UK, and they all want to protect themselves against China with nuclear submarines. I'm going to end my talk on that. And now that I'm done rambling, I'm going to look down at my comment section because a few people have joined us, and I'll see if there's any cool comments to make here. Hang Tua has joined me. Hey, buddy, how you doing? He's made quite a few comments, so I'm going to look through them. Wow, a lot. Good. Let me see these. All right. Kevin, Hang Tua, hey, you guys. Yeah, well, again. Oh, yeah, right. Well, again, see, we're going to go back to the Chinese Exclusion Act of 1882 after the Chinese built the railroad, and then the United States kicked them all out, treated them all like shit. I don't care about that. I don't want to go back that far. I want to know what governments are doing now. I want to know what governments are doing in the current generation and what governments are doing in the future generation for my son. This should be our focus and concern. Every country has, included America, even in the past, China's done some nasty stuff, but these are all things way, way in the past. Forget, please. I don't want to talk about any of that stuff. Yes, Mukden. Mukden, there's a really good Mukden beer. I know, man. We know again in the deep, long past what happened with the Japanese. We know all this. I care about what any government is doing now. Yep, Shenyang, first capital during the Qing Dynasty. I know it. I love living here. Shenyang is an amazing city, friends. An amazing city. Thank you, Kevin, for all that kind of information. Everybody, don't miss Paul Keating's recent speech at the National Press Club, explaining to the Australians how ridiculous they are, worrying about China threats. It's ridiculous. And let me see this. Kaladar, hello. Oh, 368 billion on nuclear submarines. I said 40 billion. Oh yeah, they're 40 billion each. You know, you understand these are never going to get delivered. I hope everybody knows that. This is all like ridiculous. Oops. Sorry. Right. If you're a troll in social media, why are you accorded and allowed to be there? You know, why is civility and decency not required, ruining it for everybody else in the platforms? It's just ridiculous. Upcoming Asian Games, we'll check that out. Yeah, man. I know. Disaster in Afghanistan. Then they roll right into Ukraine. I know. Walmart was the worst. Well, Walmart, not only did they send their manufacturing over to China, but Walmart also destroyed America. Okay. The reason that China is still a very prosperous society in the giant middle class is because it's still a merchant economy of small mom and pop shops and vendors. okay? This is the lifeblood of the middle class economy. And Walmart literally, intentionally went in so that a few people could become fucking billionaires. And they went in and destroyed the mom and pop societies by putting in these giant Walmarts. And then people couldn't afford to buy anything anymore. So that's why you need Walmart. So they just destroyed society in America. Again, this is what happened in the society over there. I'm sorry it happened. Very sorry it happened. But it happened. Terrible. The corporate world and the military industrial complex. We know that. Well, my wrap-up statement is everybody wants to live in a society where there's a level of decency and civility, so that we can all be assured, our parents, our children, grandparents, elderly folks walking along with the grandkids, that we all want to be assured that we can live in a safe and stable and civil and decent society. And we hope also that we have a government that is committed to growing and developing and expanding its country domestically and across the world in peace. That's China. And I'm done. Thanks, everybody. Catch you later.